everyone, today we're going to be doing another 3 looks 1 palette. I'm so excited for this one because we're going to be using the Menagerie Cosmetics Whalesong palette if you have not already seen this palette. It's so beautiful. I've already made a video with this. I will link that in the corner if you want to see that first, but I'm so excited for this. I mean, isn't that just so beautiful? So that's what we're going to be doing. So I was going to say I'm going to go ahead and prime my eyes, but I've actually already done that. So we're just going to go straight into look number 1, I guess. So I sort of have an idea what I want to do for this look, but not like 100%. But what I want to start with is I'm going to start by taking Plankton and I'm going to put that into my crease. And I'm just going to start by putting it in the inner part of my crease here, and I'm going to work outwards because I kind of want the outer part of my eye to be a bit of a different color. I don't know, I have like a vision in my head. Do you guys ever just get a vision in your head and you're like, I don't really know how I'm going to execute this and how this is going to turn out, but I don't know, we're just going to kind of go with this. So I'm going to start by first placing this in like the first part of my crease here, and I am going to pull it pretty much all the way out here. But I'm gonna leave a little bit of room just on the outer part of my crease. And I of course prime my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot and Soft Ochre. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that every time, but you never know who might be new. It's just my best primer. I don't know. I've tried so many primers and I never find a primer that comes even close to doing what my MAC Paint Pot does for me. So I'm just gonna keep using it, and hopefully in time I'll find a primer that's a little bit less yellow tone than my Soft Ochre one, but for now, I just think that it performs so good that I have no reason to change it. And I'm also putting the shadow up very, very high. As you can see, I'm not really putting it in my crease, I'm putting it above my crease, which, I mean, that's just because I have hooded eyes. I feel like if you didn't have hooded eyes, this would probably go in your crease. But I'm gonna go ahead and put another green into my crease as well. So I'm next going to go into Reef, which is the kind of brightest of the green shadows in this palette. I don't think I have used this before. I have used this palette like once without filming with it after I did my first impression, but I don't think I've used this shadow yet. And I'm just going to take that like lower down than where I put that first shadow, and I'm going to use this to deepen up the green with. I'm also not going to be pulling this all the way out because I'm going to go in with one of the, I think the dark blues, and I'm going to use those to kind of make a bit of a winged out shape with. And so I don't need this to go all the way out because it's going to be a lot easier to layer the blue wing on top or lay it down when I don't have to go over a ton of green shadow first. So I think this is fine for now. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that first shadow that I put into my crease with a big fluffy brush here and just really work on buffing that out now. So I'm next going to go ahead and take my Morphe M149 brush, and I'm going to dip into Breaching, which is the darkest of the blue shadows. And I'm going to use this to sort of make a wing with. So I'm going to start underneath my eye here, and the shadow is super pigmented, so if you're scared of that you might want to tap off your brush, but that doesn't bother me at all because I love that. And I'm going to just go ahead and start from my lower lash line, and then I'm going to use this as my guide for where to wing up the shadow. And you can see I'm taking this out really far. You don't have to do this obviously if you don't want to, but I want this to be a very intense look, and when I got that where I want it, I'm going to start bringing it in towards my crease, and I'm also going to go ahead and just fill in the rest of the wing here. And when I have like the rough shape of this down, I'm just going to use the same brush and just kind of blend this a little bit. I don't want this to be super blended, but I also don't want it to be super sharp, so I'm just going to kind of run over the edges here, just using small circular motions and just buff it out a little bit so it doesn't look too harsh. I'm also going to go ahead and put that in the outer part of my eye here. Bear with me, this is definitely one of those looks where it's gonna look crazy before it looks good, so just have to be patient and trust the process. I'm then gonna go back to my Morphe M506 brush, and I'm gonna dip into a little bit more of that shadow, and I'm not gonna start just kind of bringing this through my crease a bit, but I'm not gonna bring it all the way in. I'm just gonna bring this about 2/3 of the way in, And I'm gonna kind of just blend everything on the outer edge here together so that the wing just kind of flows into the crease. And if you're wondering if this is an everyday kind of look, probably not, even for me. But I kind of just wanted to do something a bit more on the editorial side. That doesn't mean I'm not going to wear this look the rest of the day, because I totally will, but I can see if a lot of other people wouldn't want to wear something that is this out there. So I think I have a little bit of fallout here, but it looks like it wiped away pretty easily. So what I'm gonna do next is, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put some shimmers on my lid. I do want to mention that there is a lot of kick up in this formula, but I know I've said that many times, and that's not really something that bothers me at all, because I mean, it's just not really a problem. But sometimes I get people who are like, I hate kick up, and they think it's really messy and stuff, but you know what, it's not that big a deal. So what should I do next? I'm gonna go into some shimmers, I think. So I'm first gonna start off by taking Whalesong, which is this beautiful blue-green duochrome. It's absolutely stunning. And I'm gonna go ahead and spray that just to make sure I don't have any fallout with this. And then I'm gonna be placing that on the outer part of my eye here. I just love this shadow. Holy crap. Oh, it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Wow, look at that. And I'm just tapping on the edges here on the outer part of my eye where the wing kind of begins, just to sort of mix everything together. I do want this look to just kind of flow, you know? And then I think for the rest of my lid, I'm gonna go into the lightest of the green shimmers. So this one right here, which is called Fluke. Also gonna go ahead and spray this. And I'm just gonna pop that on the rest of my lid here and just meeting that up with the other blue that I have on my lid. It's so pretty. I feel like I used these two shadows in my first impression next to each other on my lid as well, but I just can't help it. I mean, they just go so well together. Now I'm just gently mixing them together here where they meet. I'm also going to go ahead and take a little bit more of that first kind of green shade that I put in my crease, and I'm just going to kind of bring this back a little bit just to make sure that this is as intense as I want it to be, and that everything is looking nice and blended out here where that green and that blue meets. And then for the rest of my lower lash line here, I'm going to go into Cetacean. Is that how you say that? I don't know this word. Whatever the shadow here is called. I'm just going to put that on the first half of my lower lash line here. And just kind of mixing that into the other blue. So I think this is all I want to do with my eyeshadows. I feel like everything is looking really nice and blended. I probably could have blended a little bit more right up there, but I'll do that after. But for my waterline, I think I'm going to go with Prance, which is a very light blue. And I'm going to do some liner and mascara, put on a lipstick, and I'll be right back and show you the completed look. And so far, I really like this. So here is the completed look. I actually think this looks pretty cool, if I can say so myself. So for lips, I used a lip liner by Colourpop. This is called Dohi. And then on top, I used one of my MAC lipsticks. I have no idea where I got this. It says not for individual sale. So I feel like maybe I got this as a gift. Maybe I got this for a friend. I can't really remember. But it's called Amplified Vegas Vault. And it just went really well with that lip liner. So that's going to be the end of look number 1. I mean, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Is it a little bit extreme? Probably. Do I still love it? Absolutely. I think this looks really cool actually, and everything just blended in together so nicely. So far we're off to a good start. Let's see what else is in store in look number 2. Alright, let's get into look number 2. I have to do this voiceover style because it's so funny. We were having people over this day, and they weren't supposed to come until 2 hours after I started filming this, but as soon as I hit record, all of my husband's friends all of a sudden came and they started talking so loudly. So I didn't want to be rude and tell them all to shut up, so this is what we're doing. And this is also going to be a super simple look because I literally had to get done in like 20 minutes or do this as quickly as I could. So I'm just going into the bright blue in the palette now, which I think is called Dive, and I'm just putting this all over my crease. So like I said, this is going to be a super simple look. Just putting this in my crease, keeping the shape pretty round. And then for my lower lash line, I'm going to put the brightest of the green shades in this palette. Not doing anything fancy, just kind of smoking this out with a smudging brush here. And then for my lid, I'm going to go into Whalesong, which is my favorite shade in this palette. I think this is absolutely beautiful. And I, of course, spray this just to make sure I get maximum pigmentation out of the shadow. And it just went on so smoothly and blended out perfectly. For my inner corner, I'm going into Pearl, which is the beautiful light pink shade. And this is such a great inner corner highlight shade. I love using the shadow for that. And just to tie the waterline in with the shadow that I have down there, I'm taking Teaspoon by Colourpop, which is basically the same shade as the shade that I have on my lower lash line, so that worked out perfectly. I'm then also just putting on a little bit of liquid liner. I'm not doing a wing or anything fancy. I'm just kind of tracing my upper lash line here. And then I'm putting on 246 coats of my Bad Gal Bang mascara. And then for lipstick, I'm taking Christmas Cookie by Jeffree Star, which is one of my favorite nudes of all time. It's just such an easy color to wear, and I needed something that, you know, I could drink some wine with and stuff and not make a mess. So that is going to be the end of look number 2. So like I said, super simple, didn't take long at all. Probably took me 15 minutes at most to do this look, and I like doing these looks sometimes. So let's get into the last and final look now. So it is time for the last look. I am so excited. I've just been loving this palette. I'm sorry the second look was really quick, but I obviously explained that in that video why that was. But today I want to do something a little bit more, not challenging, but I think I want to do a cut crease at least, or like a half cut crease. So we're going to be using a little more shades than I did in the second look at least. So I think what I want to do is I want to play with some of the greens in this palette, which I know I have played with a lot of greens before, but I want to play with them again. And I also want to play with the pink shimmer up here. I'm actually using that as my face highlight today, and I think it's quite stunning. So I'm kind of trying to focus on the shadows that I have not used in this palette yet, and I want to say that there's really only one shadow that I have not used, and that is Barnacle, which is this kind of gray shade. So I do want to try to use that as well, but I think I want to use that on my lower lash line. So I think I'm going to start off by taking Reef, and I want to put this into my crease. And I'm just going to use a domed brush to do this with. You can really use whatever brush you want, but I don't have a lot of clean brushes right now, so I'm just using what I have. So the brushes that I'll be using in this look are not always going to be my favorite for the type of application that I'm doing, even though this brush is actually really good for something like this. And I love this color. I think this is such a beautiful green. And I don't think I want to go in with any other green on top of this to blend this out, because I am going to use that pink, like I said, probably on my lid, and I don't feel like the kind of mustardy, dirty greens is going to look that good with the pink. So I'm thinking like the kelp shade and this shade, I don't feel like these two are going to look really nice together, nor are these two, so I want to stick with kind of like the more brighter greens. That's just personal preference though, and I'm sure if I were to like get it in a palette bingo or something, I would be able to make it work, but I want to just kind of use the colors that I feel like are going to look nice together in this look. And so far, shadow-wise, I haven't really had any issues with any of the shades in this palette. I think that the formulas have been really nice and basically what I expected from Menagerie. I mean, I already know I like the formula, so I'm not surprised that there hasn't been any duds in this palette. So let's see, what do I want to do next? I think that's actually looking really nice. I feel like greens just look really good with my brown eyes. I don't know, that could just be me, but I always just feel really good wearing green eyeshadow. So I think I'm going to go ahead and deepen this up a little bit, but I don't know if I want to use the dark matte green. I kind of want to use the shimmer. So I think I'm going to go in with a little bit of splash here, and I'm actually going to take that on the same brush, which is kind of like a fluffy dome brush. Dome just means that it's like the same length this way, and it just has like a bit of like a ball shape on top. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this just in the outer corner here. And this is also a really good brush for if you want to try to kind of blend a shimmer into a crease. I like using this kind of brush for that work. And I also did not spray this because I don't want this to be like the most intense shimmer shadow that I'm using today, because I want that pink to really be the star of the show here. So I'm taking this about halfway across my lid or so, and I am blending it into my crease, as you can see here. I'm also going to go in with a clean brush here and just kind of make sure that everything's blended in my crease. This is like the only clean brush that I think I have left. And I really need to wash my brushes, and I keep delaying it because I'm so lazy, and I'm like, I'd rather film. And if I wash them now, I have to wait for a whole day for them to dry, and I need to wash all of them because they're all dirty. Does anyone else either just not clean their brushes at all, or you like deep clean your brushes? That's how I am. Like, I don't have an in-between. Let me know what you do like in between brush washes. Do you have some kind of like a brush cleaning foam or spray or something? How does that even work? I haven't tried any of those things. I'd like to get something like that for just like when I'm in front of the camera filming and I need like a clean brush for something. Let me know what your favorite product for like spot cleaning brushes, I think that's what you call it, so that you can actually use them like right away and they don't get all wet. Let me know. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to, do I want to do the rest of my lid first? Do I want to do the lower lash line? I think I'm just going to do the lower lash line. So I'm going to dip into Barnacle, which was the kind of gray shade. And I don't think I want to call it completely gray. It's like a blue gray. I don't know if there's like a specific word for that, but that's what I'm going to use. And I'm basically just going to smoke this all over my lower lash line. So it's actually coming off a bit more blue on my eye. That's a beautiful blue. That's not at all what I thought the shadow would be, and I really like that. Wow, that is so much bluer than I thought that was going to be. Juice got caught by surprise there, but I think this is beautiful. So I'm first just packing the shadow on with a bit of a smudging brush, and then I'm going to go in with probably another fluffy brush if I can find one that doesn't have a bunch of pigment on it, and we're going to blend this out. Taking a little bit more of that product now on a fluffier brush, and I'm just going to start buffing this out. You don't have to pull your shadows down to your low lash line as much as I do, but I really like to have it kind of a blown out lower lash line. I think it just makes the whole look come together, especially with how high up I pull my shadows in my crease. It just kind of makes sense for me to go pretty far down on my lower lash line as well. Next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut my crease. I'm going to do a half cut crease, and for that I'm going to use my P. Louise base, and I'll just be doing this the way that I always do it. So lately I've kind of stopped doing the look up trick where you place down a little bit of concealer or base or whatever you're using, and then you look up and you like can see where it transfers. But I've noticed that every time I use my P. Louise base and I do that, my P. Louise base is so wet that I will get like drops of concealer or base like above where I want it to be, and it just ends up looking really messy and I have to go in and fix it. But I feel like I have enough experience now to know where to cut my crease without having a guideline for where to cut my crease, if that makes sense. I also always end up cutting my crease higher up than where the transfer is anyway, so it's really not all that helpful for me. And that's just something that comes with practice. It's hard to really tell anybody like where the right spot for them to cut their crease is, because it also depends on the look that you're going for and like how open you want your cut crease to be, like in the first part of your eye and such. And it's really hard to tell anybody what like the right place to cut your crease is. It's just something you have to play around with and figure out what you like on yourself. So now that I have the cut crease where I want it, I'm going to go into Pearl, which is the shimmery pink shade. And I'm basically just going to put that all over where I cut my crease, and then I'll probably go in with that green shimmer again and just kind of mix those two colors together. I am going to go ahead and spray this because this shimmer in particular is a little bit crumbly, so there definitely could be a lot of fallout if you're not careful with this. Okay, this is a beautiful shimmer, but it's a little bit chunky. This shimmer formula actually reminds me a little bit of the Ace Beauté one, the one in the Oceanic palette. I was having a little bit of an issue with some of those shimmers because they were just a little bit chunky, and I found that it was sometimes a bit hard to get them on your eye and make it look smooth and not like you have like a chunk of shimmer on your lid that's kind of stuck in one spot. And those kind of shimmers are usually best with a glitter glue, which I didn't use today because I just had not really played around with the shadow enough. So definitely something to keep in mind for next time, that this shadow in particular, I didn't have this problem with any of the other shimmers, but this one in particular, you can see now when I put it on my eyes that it's looking a little bit chunky, and it's just because the brush picks up so much because the shadow is a little bit just loosely pressed and it's a little bit fragile, I guess you could say. It could also be because the shadow did come broken for me, so I'm not really sure if that had anything to do with it because I had to repress it down myself. But it's one of those shadows that once you get it on your eye, they're really, really pretty, but sometimes it takes a little bit of finessing to make them look right. And I'm just going to take a bit more of that green on the same brush and just use this to make sure that the outer part of my eye here with these two colors meet are looking nice. And I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a diagonal blend here. I find that to be really flattering on most eye shapes when you're doing a half cut crease. So I think this is looking really pretty. I'm not sure if I want to do anything else to this look. I don't know, I'm just kind of in like a fancy mood where I want to just like use everything on my eye. So I'm thinking maybe some glitter or something like that. Maybe something just like in the inner part of my lower lash line here. What do I want to use? I think what I want to use is I want to use one of my Stila glitters, and this one is in the shade Psychic. So it looks like this. It's almost like a blue-purple duochrome. I feel like this could be kind of pretty. Hopefully it's not going to like take over and be too dark for the inner part of my lower lash line, but we're gonna go ahead and try it anyway. And I'm just gonna take this on a small brush here and just put it... God, this is so pretty. Ugh, every time I use the Stila glitters, I'm reminded how much I love them. I'm just gonna put a lot of this on this spot right here. Oh, isn't that so beautiful? Like, oh, I cannot get enough of these. I think they're so beautiful. Do I want to do anything else? Is this all? Is this all I want to do? I'm going to pop something in my waterline though, and I think I want to use one of the faux whites from NYX, and this is in the shade Linen. So it's kind of like a baby pink pastel baby pink, something like that. I don't know, it's a very light pink. So I'm gonna pop this in my waterline, do some liner, mascara, put on a lipstick. Then I'll come back and we can talk a little bit more about this palette, and I will let you know my thoughts about it because I'm sure a lot of you are probably interested in picking this up. So let me do all that and I'll be right back. So here is the completed look. For lips, I paired Nathan, which is one of the mini liquid lipsticks from Jeffree Star, and then on top of that I have the Linda Halberg Fantastick in the shade Pink Opal. So I paired these two together. I don't really know exactly how I feel about them like looking up close because this is more of like a mauve lipstick, but then on top of like a kind of peachy lipstick, it kind of toned down a little bit and it made it look a little bit less peachy, which I like, but then the shift in it is a little bit kind of still on the mauve side because it does have some color to it. So I'm not sure if I love that looking up close, but I think it looks really nice with the eye look like from far away. So let's get into my final thoughts on this palette now. I'm sure it's going to come as no surprise. I'm going to say I absolutely love this, and I honestly don't really have a lot of negative things to say except that this palette does really stain. If that is something that bothers you, you're probably going to hate this palette. Do you know how when you use like red and pinks and purple shadows, your eye is going to look like you had pink eye the day after, but when you use this, it basically looks like you got into a fight and you lost. It looks like you have bruises on your eyes for a couple of days, which, I mean, if you're like me and you wear eyeshadow every day and you just cover it up again, it's not going to be an issue. But if you, for example, have a special occasion that you have to go to the next day and you're not sure if you're going to be able to cover it up properly and wear like a natural eye look, then you probably might want to stay away from this palette. But for someone who is a color lover like myself and who loves to just cover up whatever staining I have on my lids, it's not really a big deal at all. And I love the matte formula in these. I think it's just so good. Menagerie has the best matte formula out of any brand that I have ever tried. I mean, I just find them so easy to work with. They're so pigmented, so easy to blend out. The shadow sticks to my eyes. I never have any issues with any of these mattes. I know some people who do struggle a little bit with the mattes from Menagerie, and I don't really know what it is. It could be your eyeshadow primer. I have tried other eyeshadow primers with this formula and it just doesn't work as good as my MAC Paint Pot, but I feel like my MAC Paint Pot just works the best with everything, honestly. I'm not going to say run out and buy the MAC Paint Pot and if you have a problem with this palette it's going to fix it, but I don't know, just something to keep in mind that maybe your eyeshadow primer is what's keeping you from maybe not loving a lot of these shadows, because I don't know, there's something about the paint pot that I use that I just find works really well with this formula. So just something I wanted to, you know, throw out there if you are struggling with some of these different kind of very powdery, super pigmented formulas. it might be time to change up your eyeshadow primer. So something else I want to touch on is that I think that the shimmers in this palette are so beautiful. I did have a little bit of a hard time just with the pink. This pink is just a little bit flaky, but I think it could be because my palette did come broken, like I said, and it could just be like very loose because I had to repress it, and that's why it's kind of being a little bit chunky. I don't really know. It could also just be the formula, but I did find it to be a little bit chunky and a little bit hard to apply, but once you get it on your eyes, it's absolutely stunning. It just might take a little bit extra time to work with. Other than that, I think this palette is fantastic. I think the color story in this is just so unique, and it just goes so well with the theme of the palette. And that's the one thing that I love the most about Menagerie, is that they are so true to like the inspiration of the palette inside of the palette, and not many brands are good at doing that in a way that makes sense. I don't know, I really like this, and I'm sure you guys can tell, but I just think it's so beautiful. I love the packaging, I love how heavy it is, I love that there's a big mirror inside of it. It's just, I don't know, I just like it, okay? I just like it. So that's what I wanted to say basically about this palette. Let me know if you have this palette. Let me know what your thoughts about this palette are. I would love to know, because I can see some people being a little bit annoyed with the staining and all that stuff. But you know what? It's not a big deal. So yeah, thank you for watching this 3 Looks 1 palette and review video. If you want to see other 3 Looks 1 palette videos, I'll pop some up on the screen for you. I have so many of these. And if you are new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.